The sky was streaked with bright light as the Zorathian ships descended from the heavens, casting shadows over the cities below. The world held its breath, staring up in awe as the sleek, silver crafts cut through the clouds. They arrived not with weapons blazing or threats of domination but with promises, a future of prosperity, peace, and unity. They spoke of offering technology that would heal humanity's greatest diseases, clean the oceans, and provide infinite energy. And Earth, in its desperate hope for salvation, embraced them. "We come in peace," their leader, Threxen, broadcasted in every language known to humankind, his voice echoing across every device, every screen, every home. "You will have everything you've ever dreamed of, and more." Humanity, in its moment of vulnerability, fell silent. Governments, riddled with corruption and dysfunction, found it impossible to ignore the promises. World leaders scrambled to make deals, sign agreements, and welcome the visitors as saviors. Military power, once revered, was slowly disbanded, the forces restructured under the assumption that there was no need for defense against the peaceful invaders. Humanity lowered its weapons, its suspicions drowned by the promises of utopia. But Mia Devlin, sitting alone in a small, dimly lit room in the outskirts of New York, felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. She'd spent years analyzing patterns in the stars, tracing every movement of foreign ships, and compiling data about the Zorathians. She had warned the world, that this day would come. But no one had listened. They were too eager for peace, too desperate to abandon their fighting spirit. Mia's warnings had been dismissed as conspiracy theories, her ideas branded as paranoid ramblings by the very same governments now ready to bow at the feet of the invaders. She had tried to make her case, but the scientific community ignored her, the generals laughed her off, and the politicians were too wrapped up in deals that promised wealth and security. The world had become complacent. And now, it was too late. "They can't just take us down with kindness, can they?" Mia muttered to herself, pacing the floor of her cluttered apartment. Her fingers brushed over the edge of her old maps, her half-built data models blinking on the screen. Of course they can. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. The world was about to fall into chaos, but she could see it coming. Mia wasn't about to let humanity fall without a fight. Even if the world refused to listen, she would be the one to act. Days passed, and the Zorathians slowly began their integration into Earth's society. They were everywhere. At first, it was subtle, introducing their technology, replacing inefficient systems with their own superior alternatives. Clean energy flowed through the cities, diseases began to vanish, and the people marveled at the speed of their transformation. The alien race wasn't threatening. They smiled, helped, and guided. They didn't need to force their will upon humanity, they simply planted the seed of dependence. Soon, humanity couldn't imagine life without them. Mia watched it all unravel from her hidden office, a place no one knew about. Her team, a small group of rogue tech experts, hackers, and former military personnel, worked around the clock. They monitored the Zorathians' every move, hacked into their systems, and gathered intelligence. But the closer they got to the heart of the Zorathians' operation, the more Mia realized the chilling truth. These aliens weren't here to coexist, they were here to conquer, silently and efficiently. The promises they made were nothing but the most elegant lie ever told. Slowly, humanity was losing its autonomy. Governments were either complicit or too weak to resist. The Zorathians didn't need to fire a single shot. They had already taken over with their kindness. It wasn't long before the first signs of resistance began to surface. Small pockets of human dissent started to form. People who had resisted the aliens' charm, who saw through the facade, and knew something was wrong. They began to fight back, not with weapons, but with words, with ideas, spreading distrust about the Zorathians' true purpose. But Mia knew better than to think that simple words would make a difference. The Zorathians controlled the information. They controlled the flow of knowledge. And they had planted spies, systems of surveillance in every corner of the globe. Any resistance was immediately neutralized, and any voice raised in protest was drowned out. They made sure of it. They didn't need to conquer Earth the way conquerors of the past had done, This was a quiet, insidious control that no one could even see coming. It was maddening. Humanity was being manipulated by the very systems they thought would save them. And no one knew. Mia turned to her team. They sat, faces grim, ready for the next move. But they were running out of time. The aliens were expanding their influence, taking more control, and Earth's will to fight was being slowly crushed under the weight of false hope. We need to act now, Mia said, her voice low and determined. We've been waiting too long. One of her analysts, Caleb, looked up from his screen. We don't have enough. We've infiltrated their systems, but we still don't have a way to break them. Mia's mind raced. There had to be a way. They had the tech, the intel, and the will to fight. What they lacked was leverage. There's one more piece we haven't touched, she said, the spark of realization lighting her face. We go after the Zorathian command. She saw the doubt in their eyes. You're saying we take on their command center? Caleb asked, disbelief creeping into his voice. Mia's gaze hardened. Yes. We have no choice now. If we don't take down their leadership, if we don't expose them for what they are, we'll lose Earth forever. We don't need to defeat them with force, we just need to expose their true intentions. Her team exchanged uneasy glances, but they all knew she was right. The Zorathians had been careful, too careful. But no one, not even these advanced aliens, was prepared for the human mind, the resilience, the creativity, the willpower to survive. Mia's team wasn't just about taking down alien tech, it was about showing the world what the Zorathians had been hiding all along. All right, Caleb said, standing up. Let's do it. Let's take down their command. Mia nodded. Time to show them what humanity can really do. The next few days were a blur of activity. Mia's resistance network spread out across the globe, preparing for their mission. Hackers infiltrated alien databases, while former military personnel trained the resistance fighters in guerrilla tactics. They weren't just going to take down a command center, they were going to create a message, one that Earth suppressors would never forget. The message wasn't going to be subtle. By the time the resistance was ready, Mia had a plan. A risky one, but the only option left. As the world continued to bow to the alien overlords, thinking they were safe, Mia knew better. She had seen their true face. And now, it was time for the world to see it too. The city of New York stood silent beneath the alien sky, its once towering skyscrapers now bathed in the soft glow of the Zorathian ships overhead. The streets, once filled with the noise of human life, were eerily quiet, the hum of alien technology the only sound that filled the air. The Zorathians had completed their integration of Earth's infrastructure. Within a matter of months, cities had been transformed, clean energy flowed through every home, disease had been eradicated, and the world was starting to believe in their promise of a utopian future. But beneath this gleaming facade, something dark was festering. Earth's leaders had become puppets, their strings pulled by unseen hands. The military had been disbanded, its once proud generals now reduced to mere spectators in a world that no longer needed them. Governments bowed to the will of the Zorathians, as if they were gods, offering Earth's resources with no resistance. The world was being quietly subdued, without a single shot fired. Mia watched it all unfold, hidden from the public eye, the world unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Her team, small, but relentless, was working tirelessly, gathering intel, hacking into alien communications, and probing the Zorathian systems. She had no illusions about what was happening. The Zorathians were not here to help, they were here to dominate. For months, Mia had been trying to warn the world, trying to rally those who still had the courage to fight. But no one would listen. They were too enthralled by the Zorathians' promises, too blinded by the technology and the cures for their diseases. People didn't see what Mia saw, they didn't understand that the Zorathians were simply biding their time, waiting for the moment to strike. The moment had come. Mia's underground network had grown stronger. Her resistance was a shadow, appearing and disappearing without a trace, gathering momentum as more and more people began to question the aliens' true motives. The first small victories were significant: sabotages, disruptions, whispers of rebellion, but they weren't enough. Mia knew that to take back Earth, they would need to strike at the heart of the Zorathian operation. They needed to cripple their communication systems, to expose the aliens for who they really were. She sat in the dimly lit room, her eyes focused on the large screen in front of her. The data was pouring in. The Zorathians' control over Earth was far deeper than anyone had realized. It wasn't just the cities they controlled, it was every aspect of human life. Their influence stretched into every corner of Earth's network, every digital device, every communication line. The resistance had only scratched the surface. Mia tapped her fingers against the table, thinking. She had expected this, but it didn't make the situation any easier. She needed to take them down, and the only way to do that was through their systems, the very systems they had so carefully set up. But Mia had a plan, one that was as risky as it was brilliant. It would take everything she had, and everything her team could muster, to make it work. "Caleb," Mia said, her voice calm but laced with urgency. "It's time." Caleb, her most trusted hacker, turned from his terminal. "Are you sure? We're talking about bringing their whole operation down, not just a few supply lines. If we mess this up, we'll be finished." Mia nodded. "We don't have a choice. The Zorathians are too deep now. If we don't act fast, they'll tighten their grip even more. We've been waiting for the right moment, and it's here." Caleb hesitated, then stood, walking over to her. He could see the resolve in her eyes. It wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. And he trusted her. "All right," Caleb said, pulling up a map of the Zorathian network. "I've been running simulations on their security. It's tighter than we expected, but it's not invulnerable. We'll need a few key people in place to pull it off." Mia turned to the rest of her team, who had gathered around the room. Each one of them was ready. Every person in her network was trained, focused, and prepared to do whatever it took to win. The resistance wasn't just about physical strength, it was about smarts, agility, and the will to fight. "We have one shot at this," Mia said, her voice steady. "If we succeed, we expose the Zorathians for what they are. If we fail, Earth falls. This isn't just a mission. It's our future. We either take control of our world, or we lose it forever." The first phase of the operation was simple but essential: disrupt their communications. The Zorathians relied on an intricate network of satellites and communication hubs that spanned across the globe. These systems allowed them to monitor everything, from military movements to civilian communications. If they could take out these systems, even temporarily, it would buy them time. It would be their opening. Mia's team worked quickly, slipping into the heart of New York City, where the Zorathian communication hub was located. The streets, usually filled with people, were now ghostly silent, with only the occasional Zorathian patrol drifting through the alleys. The resistance knew the city better than anyone. They knew the back roads, the hidden entrances, and the blind spots in the Zorathian surveillance system. They had planned this for weeks. "Are we ready?" Mia asked, her voice tight with anticipation. "Almost," Caleb replied, eyes glued to the screen. "We're in." Initiating the shutdown sequence. The team moved silently, their footsteps barely audible on the cracked pavement. Every corner they turned, every shadow they passed, was a potential threat. But they couldn't afford to be cautious now. The world was counting on them. 5 minutes to full lockdown, Caleb said, his fingers dancing across the keys. Mia felt the pressure building, but she didn't let it show. This was the moment of truth. If they could take down the communication hub, they could disrupt the Zorathians' operations long enough to make their next move. Then, the unthinkable happened. The Zorathians had anticipated the move. A security breach alarm sounded, followed by the rapid deployment of Zorathian soldiers. The team froze, the plan falling apart in an instant. The Zorathians had outmaneuvered them. "Caleb, we don't have much time," Mia said, her voice urgent. "What's the status?" Caleb's eyes were wide, panic creeping into his voice. "They've got us cornered. We've got 30 seconds before the backup systems come online. Mia's mind raced. They couldn't afford to be caught. This mission was too important. If they were captured, the resistance would be destroyed before it ever had a chance to grow. Abort the shutdown, Mia said quickly. Set the system to self-destruct. We'll take them down now. What? Caleb said, stunned. Are you insane? Mia's eyes hardened. We have no choice. Do it. He didn't argue. With a few quick keystrokes, Caleb initiated the self-destruct sequence. The building would be gone in 5 minutes. Everyone, move out. Mia shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. The team sprinted toward the exit, hearts pounding as the building shook from the Zorathians' heavy footsteps. They were so close, but so far from victory. As they reached the exit, a loud explosion rang out behind them. The Zorathian communication hub had been destroyed. The team was scattered, but they had completed their mission. The Zorathians had lost their most powerful tool. But at what cost? They had taken a crucial step. But this was only the beginning. Mia looked back one last time, as the dust settled over the city. The fight had just begun. The Zorathians would be more dangerous now, but so would the resistance. Earth would rise again. The silence of the night felt heavier than it had ever before. New York, once the heartbeat of Earth, now lay cloaked under the shadows of the Zorathian Empire. Their sleek ships hovered like dark sentinels, their cold, unblinking eyes surveying the wreckage of a world slowly being consumed. But even in the darkest hours, Mia Devlin knew that humanity still had one thing left, its will to fight. She stood in front of a map of the city, her fingers tracing the lines of a complex, encrypted structure. This was it, the final piece of their strategy. The Zorathian stronghold, the heart of their command, was located in the most heavily fortified area of the city. It was a citadel surrounded by layers of defense, both physical and digital, designed to be impenetrable. Mia's resistance had been testing the waters for weeks, striking when the Zorathians least expected, but this time, they had to go in full force. We're hitting them at the source, Mia said, her voice steady, unwavering. This is the endgame. We take their command, and we shatter their control over Earth. Caleb, sitting hunched over his terminal, looked up, his face lit by the glow of the screen. The defenses are tight. They've been preparing for this moment for years. If we go in head-on, they'll crush us in minutes. Mia's eyes never left the map. We don't go head-on. We go through them. We've been playing by their rules for too long, and now it's time to rewrite the game. I've got something they don't expect, something they can't see. Her words sent a ripple of uncertainty through the room. The plan wasn't just risky, it was practically insane. But Mia had never been one to back down when humanity's future was on the line. The night of the attack, the resistance moved with the precision of a finely tuned machine. Each member had a role to play, and there was no room for mistakes. The Zorathians had thought they were in control of everything, every corner of the world, every satellite, every communication network. But Mia had been working in the shadows, systematically building a network of loyalists, of tech experts, and former military personnel who knew how to turn the tide when it mattered. Get to your positions, Mia ordered, her voice sharp as a blade. We have one chance to pull this off. Make it count. They moved quickly, navigating through the quiet, deserted streets of Manhattan. The Zorathian forces had grown complacent, confident in their unchallenged control over the planet. They were spread thin, stretched across multiple fronts, and Mia knew this was their moment. The city may have fallen under their control, but the people had not forgotten their humanity. And it was the people who would bring them down. 2 minutes to infiltration, Caleb's voice came through the comms. I'm in position. Locking down the Zorathian network. Mia nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. They had prepared for every contingency, every possible obstacle. But it all came down to this moment. The Resistance's first task was to break the Zorathian surveillance system and shut down their communication grid. But even as they worked to cripple the enemy's eyes and ears, Mia's true plan was about to unfold. Inside the Zorathian stronghold, the atmosphere was tense. Alien soldiers, their eyes glowing with unnatural light, patrolled the corridors. Their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, advanced energy rifles that could obliterate a human in an instant. But Mia knew that technology, no matter how advanced, was not what would win this war. It was the human spirit. It was resilience. It was the ability to fight when all hope seemed lost. Mia's team moved through the shadows, silent as ghosts, infiltrating the compound with the skill of trained professionals. But their true advantage wasn't stealth, it was the element of surprise. The Zorathians had grown too confident, too sure of their control. And now, they were about to pay the price for underestimating humanity. Caleb's voice crackled through Mia's earpiece again. The system's down. The command center is wide open. You're clear to proceed. Copy that, Mia responded, her voice cold and focused. Move out. We're going straight for the heart. With practiced precision, Mia and her team pushed forward, storming the Zorathian command center. The resistance had come prepared, each member armed with the latest human-made tech, EMP devices, advanced hacking tools, and weapons stolen from Zorathian supply caches. They had spent weeks perfecting their strategy, and now it was time to execute. The doors to the command center slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the alien hub of operations. At the center of the room stood Threxen, the Zorathian leader, surrounded by his closest advisors. He stood tall, his metallic body gleaming under the harsh lights, his alien eyes scanning the room with a cold, calculating gaze. He hadn't expected this. You, Threxen sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. You are the ones who think you can challenge us? We are the superior race. You are nothing. Mia stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. You've underestimated us, Threxen. You thought you could control Earth with your promises, with your technology. But you missed one thing. Threxen's lips curled into a mock smile. And what is that? Mia's voice was quiet but full of conviction. You forgot that we never give up. No matter how strong you think you are, you can't break us. This is our planet. With a signal from Mia, Caleb initiated the final phase of the plan. The EMP devices they had planted throughout the building went off, sending a pulse of energy that knocked out the Zorathians' entire communication grid. The room plunged into darkness as the lights flickered and died, and a wave of confusion swept over the alien soldiers. For a brief moment, the Zorathians were disoriented, but that moment was all Mia needed. She and her team sprang into action, taking down the alien guards with swift, calculated movements. The resistance moved like a well-oiled machine, neutralizing threats before they could react. Threxen, now enraged, raised his weapon, but Mia was faster. She lunged forward, knocking the weapon from his hand. It's over, she said, her voice unwavering. Threxen's eyes glowed brighter, his alien features contorting in fury. You are foolish to believe you can defeat us. We are eternal. Mia smiled grimly. You were never eternal. You were just patient. With a final, decisive move, Mia pressed a button on her wristband, triggering the last phase of their plan. A series of explosions rocked the command center, tearing through the Zorathian infrastructure. Threxen's shocked expression turned to horror as the building began to collapse around him. We'll rebuild, Mia shouted over the roar of the explosions, her team already retreating toward the exit. And we'll make sure you never return. The Zorathians, once so confident in their superiority, were crumbling before them. As the command center fell, Mia knew this was only the beginning. The battle for Earth wasn't over, but humanity had just proven that it was far from finished. And in the end, that was all that mattered. The Zorathian command center had fallen. The once impenetrable fortress was now a smoldering ruin, the alien forces scattered and in retreat. Mia Devlin stood amidst the chaos, breathing heavily as the final explosion rippled through the ground. Her heart pounded in her chest, but there was no time for celebration, no moment to rest. They had won, but the fight wasn't over. Not yet. As her team swept through the wreckage, securing the area and ensuring no Zorathian soldiers remained, Mia allowed herself a single moment of clarity. The mission was a success. Earth was free, but the scars of the war would remain. The world had been forever changed. Is everyone accounted for? Mia's voice was sharp, cutting through the hum of the comms system. We're good, Caleb responded. The Zorathians are in disarray. But we need to move quickly, reinforcements will be here soon. Mia nodded. We'll move out before they can regroup. Get to the extraction point. The team moved with military precision, despite the heavy weight of their victory. Their mission had shattered the heart of the Zorathian operation, but the battle had only begun. The alien forces were retreating for now, but they wouldn't give up easily. As Mia approached the exit of the crumbling command center, her thoughts briefly flickered to the Zorathians. The aliens had arrived with promises of peace, with smiles and benevolent gestures. They had manipulated Earth's weakness, played on humanity's desperation for progress. They had been careful, calculating. They had thought they were gods, come to offer salvation to a dying world. But they hadn't accounted for the resilience of humanity. They hadn't understood that humans don't bend, they break, and then they rebuild. The streets of New York, now free of alien patrols, were eerily quiet as the resistance made their way through the city. The lights of the Zorathian ships that once hovered ominously over the skyline were gone. The aliens were gone. It was over. The world had been saved. But at what cost? Mia's mind raced as she looked around at the city, the wreckage, the burning remnants of the alien stronghold. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her chest. The victory was bittersweet. Yes, Earth had won, but there was still so much to rebuild. So much to fix. The Zorathians had left an indelible mark on Earth, one that would take generations to undo. But the people were resilient. Mia had seen that. And now, the world had a chance to heal. Get to the command center, Mia said, turning to Caleb, who had been working tirelessly to disable the remaining Zorathian communication networks. We need to make sure the data's secure. We can't afford to let them regain control. Caleb nodded, already heading toward the makeshift operations hub they had set up. As they moved forward, Mia couldn't help but feel a surge of pride for what they had accomplished. It wasn't just the destruction of the Zorathian Empire. It was the reclamation of their world, of their independence. Do you think they'll come back? One of the resistance fighters asked as they moved through the debris. Mia paused for a moment before responding, her voice steady. They might try. But we'll be ready. This is our planet. And they've learned that we don't give up easily. They reached the command center within minutes, where Caleb was already hard at work. His fingers flew over the keyboard, accessing the Zorathian databases they had salvaged from the wreckage. The room buzzed with activity as the resistance members secured the perimeter and ensured no further threats were present. Mia stood in the corner, watching as Caleb worked. She had known this day would come, the day when humanity would finally rise up and show the invaders who was truly in control. But even as they secured victory, Mia understood the challenges that lay ahead. There would be no easy path to recovery. The Zorathians had left their mark on Earth, and the scars would take years to heal. But she had seen the strength in humanity, the unbreakable will to survive. We've got it, Caleb said, finally pulling away from the terminal. All Zorathian data has been wiped. They won't be able to regain control. We've done it. Mia nodded, a small smile creeping onto her lips. Good work. Now we rebuild. The world awoke to a new dawn, one that had been hard-earned and dearly paid for. Earth had endured the weight of alien occupation, the slow, creeping spread of dominance that sought to erase humanity's identity. But in the end, humanity had fought back, not with the technology of their invaders, but with their own ingenuity, their own resilience. They had taken back their world. As the global leaders gathered to discuss the future, Mia Devlin stood at the forefront of the rebuilding effort. The world looked to her now, not as an outsider or a paranoid theorist, but as the woman who had saved them. The woman who had led the resistance and shown them what it meant to fight for freedom. Mia had become a symbol of humanity's refusal to submit, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. "We can rebuild," Mia said during her first public address to the world. "It will take time, and it will be hard. But we are survivors. We've proven that. And together, we will rise." The people of Earth, battered but unbroken, cheered. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There was much work to be done. But they also knew something vital, that Earth was theirs again. It wasn't just about the defeat of the Zorathians. It was about reclaiming their destiny. In the years that followed, Earth rebuilt itself, not just physically but spiritually. New governments were formed, built on the principles of unity and resilience. The scars of the past remained, but they were reminders of what humanity had overcome. The alien invasion had been a dark chapter in Earth's history, but it had also been the catalyst for a new era of growth. Mia's legacy became etched in every part of that rebuilding effort. Schools taught the story of the resistance, of how one woman's vision had saved humanity. People told the story of how Earth fought back, how the invaders learned that no matter how powerful they were, they couldn't break humanity's will. And though the Zorathians had retreated, Earth remained vigilant. The war had ended, but the lessons it taught would never be forgotten. Mia stood on a balcony overlooking the city, watching as the skyline slowly took shape once again. There was still much to be done, but Earth had won. Humanity had proven that they could endure, that they could fight, and that they would never give up. "We did it," Caleb said, standing beside her. Mia turned to him, a quiet smile on her face. "No, Caleb. We did it. Together." And for the first time in a long while, Mia allowed herself to believe in the future. Because she knew, deep down, that humanity had earned its place in the stars. And no one, not even the Zorathians, could ever take that from them.